All right, coming online. Looks like a solid stream. See how this looks over here. Give it a minute. See what we got here. Should be, looks like it's streaming pretty solid. Even though, oops, turn that volume down. What we got here? Give the ad. Getting to live chat mode. Give it a minute here. See, it looks CPU, everything's streaming nicely. Hey Danny, what's going on? What's happening? Abed Hussein, how you doing? Gonna give it a minute, let a few people jump in here. Been a long day. That's Manhattan Beach behind me. Took the red eye back. It was Manhattan Beach in LA. Out there for dinner last night. What's happening, Moneybags? James, what's going on? Giving it a minute here. I'm kind of getting things set up. Thanks, that's Manhattan Beach. That was last night. Loud and clear, awesome. Crypto Hutch, what's happening? Let me going to transition here. I'll leave that up for a little while. There's actually a I don't know if you can see it. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Back in the way background, there's a boat back up there going on 179. I wanted to get this in. It's been kind of a hectic week. Wanted to get some thoughts out there. I'm gonna have a continuation of a hectic week, so figured I'd take the opportunity now as I had the energy to get on and put some thoughts together. Digital Clout, how you doing? So I'm gonna jump into it because there's a bunch of things I wanted to talk about. Hey Bobby, how you doing? The future is definitely now. So I was with a number of associates over the past few days, and it's interesting because we started talking about digital assets, Bitcoin, talking a bit about Ripple, talking about XRP. And it amazes me that, you know, not enough people in the mainstream are yet familiar with the digital asset space and really the impact that digital assets and Bitcoin are actually having overall on the economy and the impact that it will have on the economy, our future economy. The future is now because we're definitely seeing the impact directly right now. And so, Paul Byrne, James Byrne. What's going on, guys? What's going on, Paul? So this is what's interesting to me. So here I am. We're in a business meeting for the past few days, and we started to talk to a number of people about blockchain, a number of people about Bitcoin, like I was saying, XRP, and some of the other digital assets. And knowledge relatively limited. And so it was really nice. We started talking about Swift. I was able to really give people a good understanding and background. And typically, I stay away from those types of conversations in a work environment, but it's kind of appropriate as we're out to eat, out at the bar, whatever. And so it was a great opportunity to really give people some exposure to what's happening in the digital asset space. And these are people that I find that are extremely astute in our industry. And many of them have been utilizing Swift and didn't really understand the dynamics of the background of the Swift organization. So as we're walking the pier of Manhattan Beach last night, I was educating a small group about Swift and about digital asset. It's really unbelievable. But I'm going to tell you a quick story here in a second. Let me look Digital Cloud. It's crazy. People have no idea. They'd rather keep their money in a savings account, and savings is paying what it had been paying about 0.5%. I think savings now you can max out around 2%. Man, Paul, all the way from Dublin. Man, I tell you what, Dublin is by far one of my favorite places. I love going to Ireland. It's just unbelievable. Whenever I go there, I always check out Blessington, and there's a golf resort called Tofaris. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I absolutely love going there. So every time we come to Ireland, we always spend a couple nights in Tofaris. Crypto, what's happening over in Tampa? Los Angeles, Nick, I was just in your territory this past weekend. Just got back this morning. Image over there, that's Manhattan Beach. Probably familiar with it. So anyhow, so check this out. So last night we're in the cab, or we're in a Lyft, and we're speaking to the driver. I always like engaging with the drivers in an Uber or a Lyft, because you just never know people's backgrounds, and I've met some really, really interesting people that are now driving Uber or driving a Lyft. Same thing when I travel and you stay like in an Airbnb. You meet people that you just would never anticipate. So last night, let me before I get into the story, let me look here. I thought this was interesting. I'm looking at my phone. It's hard for me to see the stream over here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to pop out the stream here for a second. Let me see if I can get this stream real quick. Hang on a second. See if this doesn't, I should be able to pop this out over here. There we go, pop out chat. There we go, that's gonna make life a little easier. Hopefully, I'm always afraid to touch anything here as I'm streaming. It always seems like there's a little bit of an impact. There we go. I think this might work. Okay, let me see what I can do here. All right, now this will actually work right. This will work well. So, let me see if this stream is the same. Yeah, there we go. All right, I got the pop out right in front of me now. So anyhow, so we're in the Lyft. We're on our way down to dinner down to Manhattan Beach, and the driver telling us a little bit about his background, telling us how he's into music. He starts talking about blockchain. We started talking about investing before that. We were talking about the ICO of Lyft. And then we started talking about digital assets. He brought something up, and what he brought up, and this is the first time I'm actually opening up this this website here, and I think it's interesting. I would like to get some feedback on this. Let me see if I can switch my view real quick. And I think this was what the guy was talking about. Hang on a second. Let me see if I have the view. There we go. Let me transition this over. There we go. All right. Let me pull up my screen. Here we go. So let me know if you guys have heard about this. So this is Carrotcoin. Not giving it any promotion, not talking about it from any perspective at all. And I think this is the one that he was talking about. And what was interesting about it is that he handed out a business card. They've turned this into some sort of a marketing, I don't know, network marketing. I don't know what it was, but what it kind of caught me and caught my attention because here we are, we're in his Lyft, and really transitioning digital assets into an area that, I don't know if they really belong there, and I don't know if it's, and I don't think it's a real legit way to promote or talk about digital assets and the benefit thereof. But this, like I said, this is the first time I'm opening this. I think this was the one that he was referring to. It was called Carrotcoin. I think this is it, but this one looks like it's a way to buy and sell gold. And it sounded like this is what he was talking about. And then somehow they connected. He was talking about, so I think I was talking about all sorts of stuff. But I wanted to pull this up just because I thought this was interesting. Anyhow, that wasn't really my full point of the discussion tonight. Let me switch back here. Let me get my other view back. A little bit better. There we go. Let me go back here. So anyhow, so we get into this conversation. He gives us his card, and he was an affiliate of whatever. So obviously he's making money as he's referring people over. But the full point of it is we're seeing digital assets reaching unexpected areas or maybe expected. I don't know. But as we began to really unravel the background, that's when I was talking to my associates, and really I started to educate them more on the space and saying that this, obviously, this isn't the meaning of, and this isn't really what's meant to get into a digital asset space. It's not through some form of marketing ploy or marketing scheme, that there's full real world utility. And then really then getting into the full conversation of what Swift as an organization has been. And that's kind of how I started, was really getting into what Swift has, hang on. It's an MLM-based gold stablecoin, Nick. Okay, so yeah, and to me, I just don't think that that's really the appropriate, mechanism for exploring and expanding on the technology or the potential of the digital asset space. I think, obviously those types of companies are going to gravitate to looking for all sorts of opportunities, but in the end, it could also it could tarnish the reputation, or I'm going to say, let's just leave it at reputation. It will tarnish the reputation of the industry as a whole, when you have organizations that really aren't in it for the betterment of the overall technology, or when we're talking about investing to really benefit in your individual portfolio as you're investing in the different digital assets. But anyhow, so getting back to the story, so as we're walking, I'm telling about Swift. What was amazing is that, again, individuals that have been involved at a business level, transacting internationally, utilizing the Swift code and not knowing the meaning behind the Swift code. And the people that have been doing, in business for years, and this, I look back at myself, and for many, many years, utilizing the same thing. I had no understanding of what Swift was all about. And what's great about our community right now is that it's bringing so much to light. There's so much research, so much discussion that's being done, that's helping all of us understand the digital asset space. But look how this translates over to our real world life, our real life, in terms of our real work life, not just our digital asset investment life. It's so meaningful. So here I am again, walking down the pier and educating the group on Nostro and Vostro accounts, talking about Ripple, giving them a little bit of exposure to what's really happening out there, and explaining to them that there's a major shift in the economy right now, and digital assets are coming to the mainstream. And so the feedback, and this is where I think the community as a whole, all of us are really participating to bring the full impact of the technology to the mainstream, because there's still that understanding somewhere, the misunderstanding, I should say, that that digital assets are being used for black market purposes, and that's and you look at the Forbes articles that are out there and others that have really dominated that FUD mentality of the misinformation and passing on that misinformation. Today, I was reading an article, and this is from an article from about a year ago, and it was amazing because this writer was talking about don't buy Bitcoin, and this came out, I want to say January, February 2018 timeframe. And he referred to Bitcoin as a cancer coin. He referred to other altcoins as cancer coins, not just shit coins, but he's referring to them as cancer coins. And his point of this entire article that was on a well-known site, the entire point was really gearing up and providing misinformation based on his own economic theories, not necessarily looking into what the technology truly means and the impact. And it's amazing because individuals that don't understand the technology, that also don't understand the fact that there is real world utility potential, especially when we're looking at Ripple, RippleNet, and many of the others out there. So let me look at some of the comments here, because you guys have been throwing some stuff up here. WB, what's going on? Chinese bamboo. Man, I'm so glad that you kept posting that. Man, I love Chinese bamboo. I love watching the videos on it. All right, you know what? I forgot. I pulled this up over here. What am I doing? I can actually see the screen right in front of me. Dan, how you doing? Glad you logged in. All you missed, I was just telling a story about, and I just kind of finished it off. So I think you joined in at the right moment. So Phoenix, Starborn. I'm glad you're here, seeing it live. Glad you're on. Stressing over price will definitely, man. Stay away from stress as much as you can. Price instability. So John Doe, how you doing? So all of this thought process as I was out last night, and then flying back, you know, I was thinking about Coil. I'm thinking about XRP Tipbot. I'm thinking about Brave. I'm thinking about the future of our monetary exchange, or our remittance payments, or however you want to refer to them as. And I believe that we're beginning to see a rapid growth or development or redirection to online payments, remittance payments, whatever. And we're starting to see a standard being formed. So a standard with the potential and possibilities of what XRP Tipbot means. Standards and possibilities of what Coil and even Brave are going to do to really transform how we're interacting online. So let's see here. Nick, most of those contrarians don't understand the mix of tech, software, and central banking that equal digital assets. They're handicapped by their mediocre understanding of basic economics, and that is definitely the case in many of those situations. However, I think what you pointed out there, I like that the mix of tech and software with the economy. With the future economy, with the digitization of the economy. And so many of those from the old school, it's hard for them to truly understand. And I believe it's also very difficult for them to absorb the fact that our economy is transitioning to a digital framework and really moving away, from a fiat currency weighted economy, and we're talking about globally. We're not just talking about here. So, let's see, Phoenix. What's up, Jack from North Carolina? Good to see you here. Phoenix, Nick, I could totally relate that 99% will fail statement. Yeah. So 99%. We're talking about 99% of the digital assets. Is that what you're referring to there? And it's definitely, they're not all going to stick around, just as during the high-tech boom of the 90s, a lot of those companies are no longer around. Many of them merged and were bought out by others. So we'll probably begin to see a shrinking of the marketplace as well. Yeah, I too, Dan. Dan, once XRP is truly implemented, and it's implemented on a larger scale, I don't think... Yeah, there's definitely gonna, no looking back at that point. What I like is that we're starting to see more. Oh, there's a bit of a lag here. Hang on a second. Let's see. 20. Oh, my KB's just timed out. Why is everything timing out? Let's see here. Frames. Oh, come on. My KBs are timing out here. Let's see, there we go. Think it's coming back. Nope. Let's see here. All right, what's going on here? There we go. All right, got the stream back. Man, that could be annoying. So anyhow, so when we look at real world there it goes again. It's timing out again. Getting a bit of lag. Hang on a second. Why the KBs? The 12. Oh, they're fluctuating all over the place. There we go. Back on. Let's see what happened over here. Reconnection. Utility, and getting back to that statement, you know, that banks, websites, individuals, whatever it might be, once they really start implementing XRP, and if we're looking at it on the full scale, if we're looking at you know, XRapid, but what is amazing to me right now is the fact that you're starting to see this growth from the XRP tip bot. To me, that it's so telling of the community, and when we see the community coming together, but when we see that Witsy win, you know, so what he's working on is so impressive. The fact now that we can send money via Gmail, and now they're orchestrating some lobbying to add it to Skype, to simplify the nature of the movement of money. And this is now, you know, it's taking place, you know, at the retail level. It's taking place at the community level, and you're seeing community participation to bring a technology, and not everybody is going to have a direct benefit from the companies that everyone's helping to make these to make this happen. And again, you know, I think it's very selfless, you know, and it's amazing. You know, to see this kind of activity at this level, and you'd never see anything like this at the banking level or any of these you know, any of the typical, you know, modern tech companies, you know. So I think that's just super impressive. Let's see, John, in my opinion, machine-to-machine payment, micropayment will eventually be even bigger than the B2B. That's a great point. That's such an amazing point. And XRP is positioned well to capture that. We're starting to see that, and that type of communication is outstanding. Imagine a world where cars are communicating with each other for the ebb and flow of traffic. And so imagine, you know, everything that could happen within the sphere of managing traffic. You know, so if we have micro payments and we have machine-to-machine payments going on to allow different things to happen. So if you need to change the flow because a certain, you know, lane has to go faster, then, you know, so I'm just thinking, I mean, that's just kind of crazy, you know, but things like that, you know, that's like, you know, at a level that, you know, that really we have to think about things like that. So I love the idea of the machine-to-machine payments and micropayments, and we're seeing that on a smaller scale with Coil. Coil is the beginning of that. So imagine just on that level being able to get rid of those obtrusive ads. Giving what I really like overall about that concept also, when you have the machine-to-machine payments or these micropayments that are taking place for an online content creator, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's someone writing on a blog or whether it's someone sharing music or whatever it might be, allowing people to then have monetary gain without the full interaction. People, you know, so cutting out the ads or people allowing ads in order for there to be transaction in the space, or like with Coil right now, as individual consumers of video content or the blog content or whatever it might be, we're, you know, basically paying, you know, for that content. We're in an environment right now that we pay so much money. It's insane if we think about the money that we pay for cable TV, for instance, and we're just inundated with ads that none of us will ever benefit from. All we are, you know, we're just you know, they're fleecing us of our money as they bombard us with all sorts of insane ads. Now imagine if we decide, or if we're able to capture even from on TV. You know, obviously we're seeing it from a Coil perspective. We're seeing it from a Brave perspective. You know, using the Brave browser. I think we're just starting to see everyone kind of scratch the surface of that, and it's absolutely outstanding. Digital clout. It's like Christine Lagarde says, banks will adopt or be cannibalized. Yeah, that's a great point. That is such a great point. And so what we're seeing on the banking side is very, very important. You know, so yes, either they're going to adopt, they're going to adapt, or they're going to become irrelevant. And so if we're going to be focused on living in a digital world, and so here's a great point also. And this was, who was it? What did he star in? Why can't I remember? Mighty Ducks. I don't know if you guys saw that article. I think it was on Fox News or somewhere else. I'm sure it showed up on other publications. One of the lead actors in Mighty Ducks used Nexo, and we talked about Nexo in videos before. Thank you, Legendary. Definitely hit the thumbs up if you guys are enjoying the video tonight. If you haven't subscribed, it's your first time on, remember to hit the subscribe, share as well. That would be super helpful. This actor used Nexo when you're borrowing digital asset or you're borrowing against your digital asset holdings. With Nexo, they want you to put up 2 for every 1 they lend out. So he put up $3 million in Bitcoin, and he took a loan out for $1.5 million, like $1.2 million, $1.5 million, to buy a house. That to me is pretty impressive. So we're starting to see these exchanges, or we're starting to see these custodian type companies that are replacing or potentially replacing banks. So if you can borrow against your own holdings, so if your holdings are become more and more valuable, or you're able to put your money like that, you know, so if you have $1 million in Bitcoin, you want to buy a house, instead of just spending that $1 million and never getting it back, you get to borrow against your own money. You're basically paying yourself back, and you're paying Nexo a percentage in order to facilitate that transaction. But how amazing is that? Is that capital goes back in your own pocket. I think it's such a great concept that we can do that. But banks, yeah, Legendary, you know, banks are definitely scrambling right now. Coinbase, another prime example of what can happen. Gemini, and the list goes on and on and on, where they're borderlining on banks. And banks, you know, banks are definitely losing out. You know, banks are not going to be able to catch up. Leonard, XRP has so much use case, but the price is useless. The price doesn't really move at this point. You know, so we'll see. You know, obviously, the more the utility, the more opportunity there is for a price point to go up, and there's a lot of room for the XRP to move, and so that everything is going to come back to utility in that case. Let's see, Nick. Banks won't disappear, but their value proposition will definitely change. Square footage, their fee-based model, business model changes. They'll be doomed to actually offer customer service. That's it. You know what? And that's why they've been put on notice. I agree with that banks as a whole won't disappear. However, if we look at the retail big box space right now, the big box space has been struggling for years. And they got away with higher pricing. They got away with not providing real customer service for years and years and years. We saw borders collapse. We see a lot of the big box retail outlets like I'm trying to think of Sears, the Kmart's. You know, the list can go on and on at all levels, where you see those retail outlets closing because they couldn't compete with what's happening online. And we're seeing the same thing, or we are going to see the same thing within the banking industry, where banks are going to end up buying up other banks. The digital asset exchanges like a Coinbase will then potentially buy up a bank or banks. You might see a bank buy up an exchange, a digital asset exchange, and you'll see so I think there's going to be a lot of things that will happen, and we're going to see a lot of the lines will start blurring. and I believe it's going to happen in a relatively short time frame at this point. I think we're starting to really see what's going on. And to your point, Nick, yes, they'll be doomed to actually offer customer service. There's nothing like a competitive market. There's nothing like a competitive landscape. So it puts everybody on notice. It makes everybody better also. That's why when we look at RippleNet, or we look at what Ripple's offering, having competition to that solution is definitely beneficial. It's so important to have competition. Without competition, you begin to stagnate, and that's where the customer loses, because we lose out on technology that could be developed, and then we also lose out on the fact that the big organization no longer cares about their customer, which is a shame. So, John, let's see, banks will pivot to cryptos. They have no choice. Yes. 100%. Crypto exchange will probably offer similar services. Yep, I agree with that. Let's see here. This is a really good point too, Nick. Last year, banks charged Americans $6 billion in overdraft fees. $6 billion. That's amazing. The amount of money that they make on that is just, it's crazy. The people least able to pay enrich the institutions that are most likely to participate in bribery, extortion, etc. I think banks as a whole, it's a lopsided proposition. But we do pay banks for that right. Let's call it a right, or maybe it's not right's not the word, right word, but we're paying the banks for. I don't know. I can't think of this word. It's a simple word, but we're paying them to manage our loans. So. Right now, up until this point, if we want a house, get a mortgage, if we want to go lease a car, if you want a credit card, whatever it might be, people live on credit. And these big organizations, these big financial institutions are allowing us to live on credit, but many of them are gouging. If you think about credit cards, think about the mortgage. From a mortgage perspective, you do a 30-year mortgage, and you're paying a ridiculous amount in interest payments over the term of that mortgage. Now the bank is fronting that money, but those mortgages are then divided up and sold. We saw that happening. But credit cards are insane to me, because if you think about the idea that you're buying on credit, but then a credit card can charge you 18% interest, 19% interest, 25% interest. Even for good credit, you see some of these credit cards that are it's like extortion. So the best thing to do, use a credit card, you definitely want to pay it off immediately, take advantage of some of the incentives they offer. But overall, it's an extortion percentage of interest that they're charging. And these banks are making huge amounts of money as a direct result. And so just overall, it amazes me, especially when our interest rates are at a low. However, even though interest rates are low, when we put our money up in the banks and they're taking that they're taking the liquidity, and the banks are then turning it around and creating loans at higher interest rates. So they might, at the low interest rates, they're paying us out, if we're lucky, they're paying out 0.5%. And then we're paying them 3% or 4% in order to borrow money. I mean, and then you look at business loans at 8%. It'd be great if you can get a 5%. What you're paying on a lease, on a vehicle, you're paying high percentages. So it's it's very, very lopsided, and all of that to the point of the customer service. I really like that idea, because things are going to start flipping on their heads. And when we see organizations like Nexo and all of those. So let's see, John, let's see, exchange will offer crypto loans, custody, currency exchange. Yep, that's right. Legendary, the Litecoin Foundation bought a bank in Germany. Yeah, I think that was, I believe you're right. I know there was definitely a bank purchase, and then there's others, and I talked about it. I don't know, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they have applied for banking rights, and that was from a digital asset exchange. Let's see. Nick, those banks don't actually front any money at the moment of a loan origination. They hit their customer accounts and set up instantaneous debit credit situation, which, by the way, is unsecured. Yep. So, but you see the whole imbalance of this situation. And so the banks making money, really, you know, it's not their own money. So that's really, it's an impressive business model if you think about it. And you don't have to pay that much out. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into it. We can't just start our own bank tomorrow. But this is the first time in history, at least in modern history, that the banks are definitely put on notice with a direct competitor. And, you know, we see the amount of FUD and everything else that's been spread throughout this industry. And it's just, you know, what happened to the big box retail industry is going to start happening, like we just said, to the banking side. So, hang on a second. So the other thing that I wanted to point out, and I don't know if you guys saw it yet, Stephen Chip, XRP Minute, put out the video. We're gonna have the video really push towards helping out with the Token Taxonomy Act. I'm gonna put a link to the video in the description here. I'm gonna start sending it out more on Twitter, targeting the various congressmen that are involved in the Financial Services Committee, as well as just getting the word out on the street about the Token Taxonomy Act, that we need more and more support on the Token Taxonomy Act. The point is, if you haven't seen the video yet, a number of us got together and put this video together. It's definitely a good watch. I think you guys will like it a lot. Check that out. So what I really like, and I mentioned this in the beginning, is how the community is really coming together to further understand this space. Every single one of us has something interesting to offer. Hey, Spanish Cobra, I truly appreciate that comment. That's awesome. I love that, and thanks. Really appreciate that. But you know, everybody here, you know, and you're seeing, you know, all the feedback and the comments and the topics that we all discuss. Everybody has something to offer, as we're all really truly, you know, getting to understand and learn about this space more and more. It helps all of us because we all believe that this is really the future, and this is what's going to change and really significantly revolutionize the economy and overall the way business is done. So getting together like this and the sharing of ideas, and I was really happy to see even the Digital Asset Investor promoted and pumped up the video that Stephen Chip put out there. There were a bunch of us on it, and so that was great to see that from all levels of this space right now, people are really, again, sharing ideas. Then we saw Stephen Chip and Jungle did a shared video the other day. Just outstanding, you know. So let's see, Nick. Cambodian central bank to convert to a digital asset strategy this year. Wonder how closely they're being watched by larger central banks and bankers. Maybe an elaborate experiment. Yes, she did. So yeah, I think that's awesome. Hey, Sassy, what's going on, man? Yeah, so I truly believe that overall, when we look at, you know, if we're looking at from a political perspective, you look at it from an economic perspective, you look at it from a legal perspective, when you have different court cases, it definitely sets precedents. Especially when it has to do with economics and global economics. When we start seeing regulatory clarity that's popping up in different countries, what's good for that country is also adaptable to other countries. And so you begin to see individual countries are to be set. The fact that we see movement in Thailand, you see movement in Japan, you see movement in Korea, positive movement. The fact that Cambodia, the Cambodian central bank wants to convert to a digital asset strategy this year is outstanding. I think in Asia as a whole, there's a positive trend when it comes to digital assets. You see the controlling from a political perspective, the pullback in Asia, China, with the banning of Bitcoin mining, and really a lot of the turmoil that went on in China over this space. And that's really an attempt to control or maintain control and manipulation over their own economy. We saw India doing the exact same thing. Yo, Kevin, thank you very much, man. Totally appreciate it. Glad you're on the chat tonight. But you know, India, to me, India is a very, very important case. And so the reason why India is so vital, and I've mentioned this before, and I just want to, you know, put out a point here on what's going on and why India is important. India has been over the past number of years growing at an exponential rate, their economy. India has really focused as a whole. You're talking about one of the most populated countries in the world with 1.2 billion people. 1.2 billion. I mean, that's you know, it's outlandish. You know, you think about the number of people. But so what, you know, so here you have a country that has so much room to grow. They have the kind of the cream at the top. They have a ton of wealthy at the top. Then you've got this huge impoverished class. Now, when you have such a large group of people that are living in abject poverty, and so you're looking at like 700 to 800 million people that are living in poverty. That's more than twice the size of the United States, you know, that are living in absolute poverty beyond anything you can comprehend. And then you start to see what the digital asset space can do for all people, you know, of all walks of life. And you start to see what happens in Africa, and you start to see the development of companies and technologies that are lifting people up and allowing them for the first time, maybe in their lives, to have an opportunity to participate in the global economy. That is so meaningful. The global economy, and before you could barely, scrape 2 pennies. From life there. So now India, and why is India such an important test case? Because the brain power, what the education levels in India, the amount of technology that is developed or coming out of India. And so you see, you know, from at the university level, you have engineers and programmers that are over in India that are able to really create amazing technologies that everybody in the world can benefit from. But the goal here is how much room, how much space is there to grow when you have 700 million people living in poverty, and bringing these people out of poverty, giving these people an opportunity for the first times in their lives to somehow participate at a global level. Or just to participate in general in an economy. And we talked about this in previous videos, but why am I bringing this up right now is because India has been going through more debate at the government level, at the banking level, and attempting to create a standard. But the central bank in India has really, and the government has been really oppressing this technology. They're oppressing not the blockchain technology, but they're oppressing or suppressing digital assets from really taking root within India. And that's just like in China. It's more of a direct competition to what the government wants to do in terms of controlling their overall economy. And this goes back to a video I made a while back, where India had been transitioning its economy not to a digital asset-based economy, but they're removing fiat currency from their economy, moving to getting rid of about 75% of their fiat currency, moving that over to a digital economy. Mainly, you know, the way we all transact now. You buy your goods with a credit card or You can use your watch, your whatever an app on your phone to buy goods. Their goal there is to move people into an economy that's traceable and trackable. But imagine at that level, the banks and the governments are taking their percentage overall from people that can barely live. And within the digital asset space, it can offer them so much. And that's why I think India is such an important test case of what can really happen. Think about it, XRP. How you doing? Good to see you on. Glad you made it. Let's see, what time is it? I wanted to, 9:30 almost. All right. Plan on, I think I'm going to start wrapping it up. I wanted to keep it to right around an hour. I think I'm getting right to that point. But let's see if there's any final thoughts that you guys might have. That you want to, any specific topic, question you guys want to discuss, kind of in, hey, Spanish. Glad you made it on. Good to see you on, as usual. Any specific topics, comments that you guys wanted to get into? My brain is starting to shut down. I think I've had a total of about 2-3 hours of sleep since yesterday. So I wanted to get this out. It's going to be a hectic week. A lot of things going on over the next couple days, so actually through Saturday. But all right, so I guess just to wrap up, and I'm going to throw out another plug, politically speaking, when it comes to supporting the Token Taxonomy Act. Hey, I'm definitely going to do that. All right, let me before we get into that, let's see here. Zebio, XRP, BTC could change in the next days. Did you cover Western Union news? I didn't talk about Western Union. Let's see, Kevin Russell, the Japanese numbers are still not listed on the XRP ledger. That's interesting. I wonder why that is. Western Union. Yeah, there's that's something we could definitely get into. Hang on a second. Let me pull up. There was something interesting. So I find when there was something else that just happened. Why can't I think of what it was? It was something else. And let me pull up my note on it. I had some notes on this. Now I got to go back to where I wrote this down. Another point I wanted to bring up. Let's see, where is it? Hang on one second. Or let me go to the note here. Live stream notes. That's not it. Oh, you know what? So this was exchanges. No. Where is it? It had to do with R3. It had to do with the XRP ledger. I can't find it. I don't know where I put the note. It was an important note too. How about ZenPay? I know that's been we've been talking about that. That wasn't it though. Shoot. Let me see here. I don't know what happened to that note. I had a really good one on there too. So here's what, and I don't know if this has really been talked about much, but I think this is important. And this has to do with, let me open this up. I'm just open on my phone because this is where I put the note. And this was, where is it? Okay, the Swiss multinational. Okay, so this was on financemagnets.com. Let's see. Right. We'll talk about that on the next video. There's some, hang on a second. All right, so this is critical because this is where's the article now? Great. All right, I don't know why it's not popping up. I open up an article and it's talking about the CEO's salary. his 17-year. That's not what I care about. I don't care about the guy's salary. I wonder why the link isn't opening it up. But this was the stock exchange in Stuttgart that launched the XRP and the LTC backed exchange traded products. And so that's something that we're starting to see, all of these different exchanges that are popping up. And I think this will be good to talk about on the next video. And then we can get into Western Union and getting into some of these other pay sites as well. But with these different exchanges, so you have the exchange in Stuttgart, but then we also see there's in Jamaica, stock exchange in Jamaica that's now trading Bitcoin and Ethereum on the Jamaican exchange. Yeah, so the XRP TP, I think it's so amazing because, again, you know, when we're looking for real world utility, we're looking for the mainstream adoption. We talked about that in the beginning, and I think it's good to wrap up with the concept and the idea of mainstream adoption. And so when we start seeing stock exchanges around the world that are beginning to add the digital assets, they understand, they comprehend the idea of the money that's being transacted now, but they're not going to create and build out a framework in order to transact digital assets for the volume that we have now. They're creating this for the volume that they're anticipating, that they're expecting. And so, as you know, as we had just talked about a little while ago, and we look at setting a precedence. So when we start seeing countries that are giving, and the SECs of countries like in Thailand that are providing regulatory clarity, but when we start seeing stock exchanges around the world that are rolling out like that, like the exchange traded product, or we start seeing the exchanges in countries like Jamaica, basically all over the world that are adapting to the digital asset space, that's how we know that mainstream adoption is right around the corner. XRP will be everywhere. That's it. You know, hedge funds, ETP, pension funds, index funds, Forex. John, you know, you're definitely spot on with that. It's going to be everywhere. And we're seeing the top three, and we're starting to see, right, with the Bitcoin and the Ethereum and the XRP. But XRP, I think, really has a lot more to offer than some of the others. And I believe that, you know, when you get into the hedge funds and the pension funds, they want to make sure that whatever they do add, and I think people are going to be a little bit more hyper focused on the types of assets that they bring in to add into a pension fund, especially after the mortgage crisis. You would hope that people would be a little bit more hyper focused on that, but it's just a matter of time, and it's happening, and it's going to happen at a faster and faster clip as we move into it. So that's it, guys. You know what? You know, I'm gonna wrap it up. I think we had an amazing conversation tonight. I wanted to get some of these thoughts out on live stream. The live streams are awesome. I love the engagement. I learn a ton whenever I do these. You guys are great. The great feedback, great input. Send a note if you want to send it through Twitter. It's now the HODL Report, at the HODL Report. You can check me out on Twitter. That would be great. Any subject topic, if you want to see it in a video format, you want something that we can bring up on live stream. Not sure if I'm going to. I know Wednesday I definitely can't do the live stream as I normally do, but we're going to be working. But Saturday morning, depending, I'm going to try to get that one in Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look out for that. But again, check it out on Twitter at the HODL Report. You can send any feedback, comments, topics that you'd like to see covered. That would be awesome. And then just to finalize, I'm also going to send out, take a look out for the video that we made that was really geared up towards the Token Taxonomy Act and helping to understand the importance of the digital asset space. And really with that, the focus right now over the next week, 2 weeks, is to educate those within the Financial Services Committee to begin accepting and giving them some basis of understanding that they have to look into passing the Token Taxonomy Act, which will then help Warren Davidson reintroduce the Token Taxonomy Act to Congress. But we have a long way to go with that. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up. Gaming crypto, that definitely, I want to see XRP on Fortnite and all of those others. I think that's the place it needs to be. So anyhow, again, appreciate you guys coming on tonight. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Until that time, keep on hodling your crypto. See here. Shut that down. All right, guys. I'll check you out later. Have a good night.